Now, former President Jacob Zuma's Mkhonto weSizwe MK party, which emerged as a strong political force ahead of the 2024 elections, is already showing signs of internal fractures. Secretary-General Floyd Shivambu is facing mounting calls for his removal, with some members questioning his leadership and decision-making. Meanwhile, Zuma's daughter, Duduzile Sambudla-Zuma, has been linked to factions reportedly advocating for a shake-up in the party's leadership. However, the MK party has firmly stated that Shivambu enjoys the full backing of Zuma and the leadership collective. So, is this just internal dissent, just political noise, or does it signal deeper cracks within the party? Now, to unpack this conversation, we're joined by political analyst, Professor Sethulego Matebesi. Prof, good to speak to you. Is Floyd Shivambu's leadership under serious threat, or is this just factional politics that we've come all accustomed to across South Africa's political landscape?
Hi, good afternoon, Hugo, and let me also take this opportunity to greet the viewers. Very interesting question, but for me, if I look at the situation, it was bound to happen. You've got a party with a completely different dynamics, internal dynamics in terms of its structure, composition, and even the way they deal with certain processes. So this is bound to happen where you I would say in most instances, almost like a family affair, where some members will feel they are entitled to make decisions which I don't think any other member, irrespective of how senior they are within the party, will take. So, and that's why the daughter of Zuma could take these kind of decisions and actions. But for Floyd, for me, generally, I don't think it's necessarily something which now is indicative of almost like the break or divisions within MK party, or that divisions that will hurt the party. This is just almost like a natural process where you've got a situation where it seems as if there are no checks and balances when it comes to who says what and at what time.
Now, Duduzile, for the most part, has gone and checked. This is one of the few occasions where she's gotten a rapping on the knuckles from Jacob Zuma. What do you read into this, and how important has this been, particularly in light of that public spat between her and Floyd Shivambu only days ago?
Yeah, well, we've learned, I mean, from many angles that you never mix business with pleasure, you never mix business with family and all that. And this is a typical case. I mean, this is a public spat, which for me just indicates at the level of disrespect. And also in terms of the maturity, political maturity of some leaders, because, I mean, if you make these public pronouncements, you want to hurt one of your opponents, or I don't even want to call it opponents within the party, or somebody who you see is in trouble. But at the end of the day, that particular pronouncements, those that you make, whether it's in the form of writing or through your actions, will definitely hurt the reputation of your party. And in this instance, I strongly believe that if you look at the number of senior politicians that have joined or MK party over the past couple of months, it was bound to happen. And especially if you've got a situation where the next day somebody arrives and then they are placed into senior position without the branches and the party deciding that is bound to happen. But now it's a case of the party president has to come out guns blazing, rapping, obviously taking action against his daughter. But the question is, we don't know what happens behind the scene and whether this is the last. You could also see with that letter of apology, that it once again actually was taking a swipe at Floyd Shivambu, which is regrettable at any level. I mean, that is not justified, and one just hopes that it will not be a continuous back and forth between the two party leaders, which will definitely hurt MK party.
Now, what role does Jacob Zuma play in managing tensions within the party? And obviously, this chastisement of his daughter, is it critical in managing or creating some structure on how to deal with internal issues in the future?
No, well, despite all the challenges that you face, despite all the critique, I mean, Jacob Zuma is a seasoned politician, and he's led several structures, political structures. He came through the ranks, so he will know if left unchecked, if left unresolved, this particular will come to haunt MK Party. And clearly, I believe behind the scenes, attempts are being made to try and resolve this issue amicably within the party structures, far away from the public domain, because as I've indicated, you have to manage this, because also the way you deal with this particular issue will set as a template as to how other members will respond when they are reprimanded. And I definitely believe that the party leaders, not only Jacob Zuma, will have to come in defense of their Secretary General. And we haven't seen that enough. And that it perhaps also indicates to you where the power within the party resides. And the question many have asked in the past, and I also asked that once Zuma is not there, what's going to happen within the party? Because it seems as if there's a sort of entitlement that this is the baby that we started, this is a family baby, or we started this baby and we will dictate how, processes unfold within the party. And that, I don't think it's good for any organization which wants to compete and set an example in terms of leading and meeting the interests and the demands and the interests of South Africans.
Now, Professor, this is not the first time that we hear of factions within political parties, and obviously dire consequences often around these factions. How does Jacob Zuma manage factional politics within the MK party? And I suppose it's more critical for the MK party because it's a relatively new party.
Yeah, it's going to be a very difficult question to respond to, because we haven't seen much to be able to pinpoint. But we already know Jacob Zuma's leadership style, where a decision will be taken. And I mean, one of the decisions, I don't know how MK party operates, where leaders who have joined, and then over a week or so, we know that those leaders are taking up senior positions within the party, and whether that has been a leadership collective. But we also know that the president will, such tremendous power that he, at the end of the day, takes decisions that have to be, obviously implemented or heeded. And I can just slightly take you back to even the speech that was delivered, where there were insinuations, whether true or false, that perhaps there was an instruction from the president as to how the speech, the response to SONA, is to be structured by one of the, the party's chief whip. So that in itself, it tells you what kind of leadership style is there within the MK party, where the president will perhaps take a decision and everybody else would have to, unfortunately, or fortunately, heed that particular call.
Prof, as we wrap now, what lessons can be drawn from similar struggles within South Africa's political parties?
Yes, but as I've indicated, we should not read too much there. You've got a party there that withstood many challenges without branches. If it was any other new political party, I would have said this is indicative of the damage of that particular party. It already starts that there are cracks. Yes, indeed, this is a huge issue which needs to be managed, because it's indicative of what is happening in terms of the internal dynamics of political party. But you've got a party also that there's so much promise in terms, if you look at their election performance during the past elections, and they only now setting up structures. So it's expected. And so many people have also been taken out of their positions, that of those who have joined MK. We know there has been battle, some people who complained about having lost their, positions within the party. That tells me that perhaps our politics is a kind of politics where we entrust or put our trust into personalities instead of the ideologies that a party stands for. And we are bound to see cracks happening from time to time if that particular situation prevailed within South African political parties.
Well, Prof, if the MK party is to exist in the absence of Jacob Zuma, then succession politics is a conversation that must be had in the MK party. Is it too early to have this conversation? What does that conversation look like? Is it something that they're considering, do you think?
Yeah, well, you have to approach such a question in two ways. I mean, if somebody comes out and publicly make pronouncements about succession, and as I've indicated, we know the leadership style of Jacob Zuma. The question will be, do you now want to take over my position? If you are suggesting that, they are, and it's natural, they are just leaders who don't want to talk about succession because the moment you mention that, it seems as if there are already plans to unseat him. But if you look at the long-term vision of any political party, and a party which ideal is to unseat, or at least challenge the dominance of the African National Congress, then one has to think about succession, the succession planning within the MK party. But I don't think that is something that they preoccupy themselves with now, because it's only now that they're setting up, proper structures in terms of branches and even at national level.
Professor Sethulego Matebesi, I appreciate your time as always, as Jacob Zuma cracks the whip on Duduzile Zuma, giving us his comments and reactions to that.